Welcome back to Orange Hat Reviews, everyone. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. So, Mystery Review episode 61. I gave out the hints of Tom Cruise and the military. Now, there are a few movies that come to mind, one of them being A Few Good Men, another one being Top Gun, another one being Top Gun Maverick. Well, that's not exactly the one that I was doing. Neither of them were, actually. I am doing Edge of Tomorrow, Live, Die, Repeat. Now, let's see here. There we go. Sorry about the lighting, folks. I know half of my face was looking like freaking just God just blasting a flashlight all over me, but now, well, that should be a little bit better. Anyway, Live, Die, Repeat, Edge of Tomorrow. It was called different things in different parts of the world. However, it still does remain the fact that Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt, Brendan Gleeson, and Bill Paxton were the most known roles. This movie was directed by Doug Liman, or is directed by Doug Liman. And I gotta say, this is one of the better movies that Tom Cruise did, even with all the special effects, wire work, stunts, and whatnot. He really does do great work. And Tom Cruise also showed a lot of dedication in this film. So, yeah, 2014. Now, this is a great movie, as I said, with only like a few seconds worth of footage that could easily be cut out, and then it would actually be perfect, in my opinion. This movie stars, as I said, Tom Cruise, Emily Blunt, Bill Paxton, and Brendan Gleeson. The movie's directed by Tom Liman. It's a time travel movie with a weird twist. Now, the movie begins with news reports of meteor impacts and an invasion of some sort of alien force called Mimics. Europe is getting thrashed, and we are told the first major victory came after 5 years in a place called Verdun. We are introduced to Tom Cruise's character, William Cage, who's a major in the U.S. military's media business. He's the one that goes out for or on the news cycles for the media or for the military and basically says, we're doing, or this is why the military is so great. That's basically what the military has people like him for. Now, he's talking about the mech suits that are used in this movie, the combat jackets. And I really do like the idea of these things. I mean, you get to put on any sort of combat uniform and you have your weapons that you have in normal real world combat. Well, these things you can fire from your arm. They're kind of like mech suits where you could fire from your arm, reload in your hip, or you throw, or your extra mags are in your hip or clips or whatever they want to call them. And they talk, and it really is pretty cool. You can have over the shoulder cannons, kind of like what Emily Blunt's character Rita Vertasky does. Now, before I go any further, Emily Blunt is a great actress. However, her real life persona, her real self, I'm not that much of a fan of. I mean, she has made some pretty she's made some pretty anti-American statements, which I believe are very morally reprehensible. However, I cannot deny her skill as an actress. She does have good acting skill. Now, unfortunately, people just have to basically separate the art from artist in order to uh, watch what they star in. Now, believe me, as much as Emily Blunt is a basic bitch in real life, her acting skill is undeniable. Also, before I go any further, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, share the stream out. All of this stuff really does help, folks. I don't say it for no reason. Helping share the stream out, giving it the likes and whatnot, it does help my channel get noticed by other people, which will help my channel grow further. And right now it's starting to stagnate at 1,100 subscribers. So yeah, I'm doing the best I can to get more content out. I will have another The Woman King video out because Viola Davis opened her mouth. But we're going to get back into the review now. But thank you seriously all for the support. I do appreciate it a lot. Now, Nick Cage, Tom Cruise's character is essentially saying, look at what we have accomplished. Also, Rita Vertasky, this is the hint that something weird is going on. Her first day in combat, she killed over 100 mimics. Well, at Verdun is where this happened. Now, everybody attributes it to, well, this is what the combat jacket can do. This could turn people into super soldiers, essentially. We will learn later on that's not exactly the case. Brendan Gleeson plays the European military's general, the leader of the European military, and they're planning a final push assault to defend the Europe, pushing in from all corners to try to wipe out the scourge of mimics. So during this, you are seeing different views of different things around the world, world leaders coming up and into the video and whatnot. Now, this is where I say like 3 or 4 seconds of film can easily be cut out of this film or out of this movie, and it would actually increase the objective quality to the film. There's a shot with Hillary Clinton talking with foreign leaders or whatever. Now, folks, yes, I'm not a huge fan of Hillary Clinton, but if you actually take real world figures out of the equation, you are essentially increasing the overall objective quality of a film, because otherwise you are dating the film. You are saying that this film took place during this time, and essentially you're making it so very little can be left to the imagination of when this film takes place. Now, this film does take place in the year 2020, the final bit of the film, because the invasion started in 2014 or 2015, because they do say that 5 years have passed, and that was when the first victory at Verdun happened. And then we're at this thing. So it's 2020, fitting end of the world scenario because of COVID and all. Also, I did a review for this film, I believe, back in 2020, when it was just a generic review, where now I'm going to go further into depth. So hello in the chat to all who are watching. I get the feeling that 2 of you that are in the chat are the ones that are just lurking in the background. I'm willing to bet Cassie is one of them. How you doing, Cass? Good to see you. So yeah, if they would have taken out the Clinton thing, fine. And then they set up the Angel of Verdun, which is Rita Vertasky, Emily Blunt's character. Now, we are then formally introduced to Major William Cage. He's sleeping on his way into London and ordered to cover the invasion of France on the front by Brendan Gleeson. Now, I love how Brendan Gleeson acts in this. He's like, A lot of people are going to die tomorrow. He gives the idea that he knows that this is the sad facts of what's going to happen, that he understands that this can't be avoided, that he wishes there was a better chance for a scenario in which it doesn't happen. But unfortunately, he needs, or they're going to be looking for somebody to blame. And unfortunately, he will most likely be the one to blame when the body bags start piling up. A lot of people are acknowledge that they're going to be dead by tomorrow. So obviously, William Cage, Tom character, he's like, well, we could spin this. I mean, we can always go over it. And he's like, no, I don't want you to sell me, Major. I want you to sell the invasion. And we're going to line you up with a crew on the front. You're going to basically film it there. And he's like, on the front? No, man. And he's like, he's coming up with every little thing saying that I'm not a soldier and yada, yada, yada. He's like, I've already talked with your CEO. You've been placed under my command. This isn't a request. This is an order. And Ladybug above me. So he's like, he tries to get on, but then he can't because he's finally dismissed. And so he turns, he's like, General, you know, when the body bags start coming in tomorrow, there are a lot of people are going to die. They are going to be looking for somebody to blame. And I promise you, I will make sure that they blame you. He tries blackmailing the general. And he's like, are you blackmailing? No, sir, I just really would not like to be on the front. That's all. Or filming on the front lines. You won't be. So he's like, thank you, sir. And as he's walking out, the general has his MPs arrest him or attempt to, and he tries running, so he then gets tased. And we then see him wake up on a forward operating base where he's getting kicked by a guy. He's like, wake up, maggot! And he calls him. He's like, I'm going to wipe you off my boo hill, maggot, and whatnot. We get introduced to Master Sergeant Farrell from Science Hill, Kentucky, played by the legendary actor Bill Paxton. Folks, Bill Paxton has played in futuristic gun-toting movies before. Aliens. He's played in movies where he's gotten dirty. He's gotten beat up. He's gotten tossed around. Twister. I mean, he's just played in so many great movies. Bill Paxton is the only person to ever be killed by the holy trinity of horror movies. Terminator, Alien, Predator. It's like, you can't get much better than Bill Paxton when it comes to sci-fi. And he plays a minimal role in this, but he still has such an impact in this film, where he's talking about how combat is the great redeemer. And he's like, so what is it? Poker night? Got too loose with somebody? Yada, yada. And it just is so great. Now, okay. So he then pulls out a thing where he's like, or after Cage is like, I am an officer in the U.S. or in the United States military. I have been railroaded. And he's like, oh man, well, I got a sheet here that says you're a deserter, that you tried impersonating an officer to get out of combat. So yeah, he got railroaded, but nobody's going to believe him because it comes up from a rank that is beyond reproach. So how you doing, Cassie? Good to see you. It's Live, Die, Repeat. Edge of Tomorrow. And Jet Sparks 373, good to see you. Yeah, it's Edge of Tomorrow. I think the most infamous role is him playing that sleazeball car salesman Simon in True Lies. Yes! Oh my God, Bill Paxton played such a great character. Arnold Schwarzenegger, that fantasy that Arnold Schwarzenegger has, bam! Where he just smacks him, he's like, with just blood just freaking spraying in the wind as he's driving. Oh my god. Well, Cassie, if you haven't seen Edge of Tomorrow, I highly recommend it. But this is also going to be a spoiler discussion. So if you don't want to be spoiled, better click out now. But thank you for stopping in anyway. But yes, it is Live, Die, Repeat, Edge of Tomorrow with Emily Blunt. And Bill Paxton introduces Cage to J Squad. And you see the scene is played out very well. He's like, and he's introducing, and he finds that the squad was gambling with some playing cards or some poker cards or whatever. And he forces them to eat them as well as recite one of his own personal creeds, which is that fate is through fire and whatnot. Now, if you pay attention to the dialogue, you will realize that it slightly changes. Tom Cruise in Military was going to say it's either Edge of Tomorrow or Jack Reacher 2. It could have been A Few Good Men. It could have been the Top Gun films, for all you know, Epi. But thank you for coming in, Epi. Always good to see you. So, yeah, it could have easily been any one of those films. I'm cool with the spoils, can still enjoy the movie regardless. Awesome. That's good. So, there's a character whose voice is kind of similar to yours, Cassie, in this film. Her name is Nance. And let me see if I could pull up the Edge of Tomorrow cast. She's one of J Squad. She's pure hillbilly though. Yeah, Charlotte Riley is the actress who plays Nance in this Edge of Tomorrow. Nance. But yeah, she just plays such a great freaking character. And she's funny as shit in this film. She kind of talks like you too, which is also fun because you just don't give, or you give off the awesomeness of just not giving a shit how you talk. Hillbilly, kind of, yeah, she does give off the hillbilly vibe. Let me actually see if I could pull up a picture of her. Now, does she look like it? That's the question. Let's see here. Well, she's got longer hair than you in this. I know that much. But Charlotte Riley, there we go. Now let's share the screen. I can dig it. Yeah. Share screen. Chrome tab. Edge of Tomorrow, Nance. Yep. She's like the one female in J Squad, but she hangs out with the guy. She does it very well. I mean, this is Nance. She talks like Cassie. Her voice kind of is like Cassie's. I almost thought Cassie was actually in this freaking film. To be 100% honest, it's like, holy shit, did they actually cast Nat or Cassie from the future to be in this film? But yeah. So they eat, or she's eating a playing card right here because they got caught gambling. Oops. But yeah. And so they're like, or he then tells the rest of them that Cage is a deserter. And he will try to say anything to get out of combat tomorrow. Maybe I was Loki, right? And so you then see that tomorrow comes. They're getting up on the ship, and he can't, or he's like, "Where's the safety? Where's the safety? How do you turn the safety off?" And they're not going to help him because they know he's an asshole. He's a deserter, and nobody trusts deserters. I never saw this, but heard it was good. Oh, rhetorical thrill. It is freaking awesome. Like I said, you take 3 to 5 seconds out of this film, objectively, this movie goes from a 9 to a 9.5 out of 10, objective standard. If you were to actually take 3 to 5 seconds out of this film, you got a nearly perfect film. But yes, because honestly, you should never put real world politicians in a film and have them, because one, you're showing your bias. Two, you're showing, or you're dating the film. Nobody wants a film dated by real world politics. I don't care if it's a pro-conservative film. I don't care if it's a pro-liberal film. I don't care at all of where the leanings lie. I don't want it in a film. That's why I don't watch or review certain films, because I stand with my integrity of, if you are overly political, or if you are pushing a narrative too much in a film, not going to do it. Same with Woman King, which I will have a video coming out later, because, like I said, Viola Davis had to open her mouth and actually try to defend the revisionist history. But anyway, back to the film. So they're marching out, and you also see that Rita Vertasky, Emily Blunt's character, is on the same base. She grabs this humongous fucking buster-looking sword from, like in Final Fantasy VII, but it's made more, or it's a more realistic-looking thing, but it's also made from a helicopter propeller. Like, she fashioned a sword out of a freaking helicopter propeller, and she believes in getting up close and slashing these motherfuckers with this suit. Now, the wonderful thing about the suit is that Tom Cruise, this is how dedicated this man is. He went in months before, during the pre-production of this film, to get to know the down and dirty of these suits, to take the time to spend in the prototypes of the suits. These things weigh 85 to 130 pounds when they're fully loaded and whatnot. So yeah, when you are in these suits trying to walk around, when he's walking in the first scene of this film where he's in the suit, you see that he's very sluggish. He doesn't know the suit very well. I can't stick around, but saw you were live and wanted to drop by. Thank you so much, Rhetorical Thrill. Also, folks, join me on Rhetorical Thrill Thursday. We have a guest choice review where she's picked the film Death Becomes Her, and we will be discussing that, the one with Bruce Willis, Meryl Streep, and Goldie Hawn. So thank you for stopping by, Rhetorical Thrill. Also, folks, if you can sub to Rhetorical Thrill, she is a great reviewer. She's been doing it like man, and she's one to definitely follow. So yes, let's give her some support as well. So, Kamen Rider, good to see you. How you doing? Doing Live, Die, Repeat, Edge of Tomorrow. So, yes, Tom Cruise has been he's learning the ins and outs of the suits. He's getting comfortable. So when he does do the film, he's not clunky when he's supposed to be handling this thing very well in later iterations. So yeah, that's how dedicated this man is. He does his own stunts. He's freaking on a damn plane. And like he did for Top Gun 2, or not Top Gun 2, but Mission Impossible like 7 or 8 or whatever. I mean, this man is nuts in the real world. But when it comes to the professionalism that he puts forth in his career, it's undeniable. Tom Cruise is just one of the highest tier actors for a reason. So, yeah. So we're getting to the march out to where they're getting ready to invade France. And he's seeing everybody walking, and he's like, oh, my God. So he tries walking off, and they're like, oh, my God, man, get back here, you son of a bitch. So they have him up. They're like, how do you disengage? How do you get out of here? He wants to, or he's on the ship, the drop ship, and they're flying him in. One guy's like, hey, there's a problem with your suit. Yeah, it's got a dead guy in it. And Nance is like, are saying something to him. It's like, better watch out because nobody else will. But yes, Tom Cruise he really is killing the game, man. If he dies in like the next 5 years, you will not see for another like 30 years an actor of his caliber on screen. You just won't. I mean, you got that posing wannabe Brie Larson thing trying to say that she's as good as Tom Cruise or that she's going to be her own self, better than Tom Cruise. Nobody's buying it, Brie. But anyway, so the ship gets attacked. They drop down. We got this fat ass that's part of J Squad called Kimmel, who literally goes balls out into battle. Literally. You actually see his fat ass. They give you the shot to let you know that he's going out full freaking nude in his suit. And he's like, hey, we made it. Oh my God. Because they got shot down. And he's so freaking happy to be alive. Well, Cruise sees that ship's falling and falls right on the fat ass, Kimmel. So he's dead. And he's still trying to use the remote to try to turn off the safety. How do I turn my safety off? He doesn't know how to fight in this yet. And would you like to appear in Fortnite? I don't know. Would I? I guess. Hi. In Fortnite. So, yeah, it's just absolutely freaking nuts. And so he's seeing everybody's getting slaughtered. He sees Rita Vertasky's plane go down. She gets knocked back, so she uses her shoulder cans to blast a couple of mimics, these alien things. Now, these creatures have such erratic movements, folks. A lot of people say that the special effects for the mimics are actually not good because of the really weird movements. And that's actually on purpose. Where there's a shot of a mimic in this film, and I'm going to use my fingers and my hand to actually show you what it does. It's kind of just shoots out like this really quick with its tentacles. And that's on purpose because these things operate in a different wavelength of time, which is kind of interesting when you think about it. Like I said, this is a slight time travel movie with a twist. So he tries running, and Farrell catches him. He's like, you're running the wrong way, son. Get out of here, man. He's still trying to get his thing. They're coming. They're 500 yards out. The mimics are about to slaughter him. Well, then there's one in the trench with them coming up out of the ground. He actually manages to get the damn safety off and shoots it. And he's like, hey, yeah, I killed it. Well, then there's this big-ass freaking mimic. Blue, mean as hell, walking all over. He's playing dead because all of his crew or all of the squad just got killed by the other mimic. And this thing's walking towards the smaller mimics. And now the smaller mimics are the drones. They're orange, like me. But this one is blue, and its mouth is just wide open, and it actually sees him. Now he's looking over at a claymore that one of the squad uses. Pulls the claymore just as the big mimic, which is known as an alpha, is coming at him to kill him, but he blows the claymore under this mimic, getting all of its guts and blood mixing into him, killing him because it kind of melts the skin too. And that was where the digital effects are actually at their weakest, was when they mix in or when they kill him like that. So then you see him wake up right when he was arrived back at what I call point zero, where the guy is telling him, get on your feet, maggot, where he just woke up at the forward operating base. So he's repeating the day. He has no idea what the hell's going on. He's like, the hell? Doesn't know what's going on at all. And you see slight differences in the dialogue. because of the difference of how he's reacting. This is pretty extreme for me to say, but I would rather take a bull execution style than play Fortnite. That game is crap, but then again, all battle royale. To each their own, man. To each their own. I mean, me, when it came to any sort of game where it's a battle royale, I prefer games like freaking the original Battlefront or Battlefront 2. I like those. I'm an older gamer kind of person, you know? Back when I actually did do gaming, before streaming was a thing. But yeah, I'm a retired gamer. That's how I refer to it. So he meets J Squad again. Now, this is actually, I'm sorry if you do hear a lot of noise outside of my window. I can't help that. I live in an area where the town trucks come through to get their sand because right down the street from me is sand pits. So sorry about that. Anywho, Nance actually forgot her line in the film, Charlotte Riley, where she actually skips her line a little bit, or she pauses in between her line because she either forgot it. It's a dialogue problem or it's a dialogue flaw. So yeah, that's not supposed to, or that's a moment that's actually supposed to be cemented, but you do hear a difference. And that's one of the things that they actually do have a problem with in movies, where you got to repeat the same thing over and over. It's best to just use the scene, record the same scene over and over, different angles and whatnot, until you are ready to introduce differences within that scene. That is how they do, or that is how you actually would do something like that. Well, in this, they kind of didn't do that. Now, Doug Liman is actually a very good director. This dude freaking did, I believe, the Bourne movies or the Bourne Identity and whatnot. So yeah, this dude has some skill. Now they get back on the thing, and he's like, "What the hell is going on here?" And so he back into getting him into his suit, and he's like, accidentally disengages one of the shoulder locks to his suit, and Griff, one of the squad members, is like, "What the hell is wrong with you? You ever used one of these before?" "Maybe." "You know how to use the safety?" "No." "Well, good." It's like, holy shit. So now, also in the first battle, you see Rita Vertasky get killed in an explosion. I got hiccups. Where's my water? Just in case this always happens. So yeah, gotta hydrate. So she actually dies on the battle too. It's a slaughter. They knew that they were coming, essentially. So he goes out, and in the second, or this is the second version, Tom Cruise dies like 36 times in this film. However, it's implied that he dies a lot more. Yeah, definitely. Stay hydrated, sir. Yeah, indeed. I mean, when you're doing like hour-long streams, you gotta have a freaking bottle of water or something with you so that you can keep your voice going. Now, he realizes that Kimmel, the fat ass, not Kinnell, like Ryan, but Kimmel, the fat ass, is about to get crushed. So he pushes him out of the way, and he gets crushed himself in this one. Well, I just heard Griff, and I think Griff, all these bullets for me and your gut from Red versus Black. Nice. But yeah, one of the characters is named Griff. So he wakes up, he's like, ugh! Every time he wakes up like screaming or like grunting out of either frustration or pissed off or genuinely scared, man. So then it's like, oh my God, I'm repeating it again. So he runs up to the guy that is supposed to, or to Farrell, Bill Paxton's character. And he tries telling him what's about to happen. He tries telling him about the future. He's like, You're from Science Hill, Kentucky, and I know I've never met you, and I know this is going to sound strange, but you got to believe me and whatnot. So so the MPs are hauling him in like he's some sort of freaking insane person. And so he's like, I have never met you, right? And Nance is like, bitch, I don't know you. Exactly. And his manic acting in this is just so great. He's like, this is J Squad. Yes, this is J Squad. Yes. I mean, it is just so great. Red versus Blue was funny back in the day. If I had the choice between crispy and extra crispy, I want you extra crispy. Nice. Yeah, I've actually tried watching a little bit of Red versus Blue on Netflix a while back. It was funny. It has some good moments. But yeah, and he's like, I've never met any of you. And so he's like, there is a, or he tells them all their names. You're Nance, you're Griff, you're Nibble, or Kimmel. You go into battle, balls out, literally. And they're hiding a card game under there. You got this, and you are going to make them eat their cards. Yes. Now that's stuff. What I'm about to tell you is crazy, but your very lives depend on it. They're all actually focused in on him now because, well, one of them's kind of pissed off because he ratted him out with the card game. And so you think that they might actually listen. Nope. He is on the drop ship with his mouth duct tape closed, trying to tell them that the ship is about to explode because the ship does get ripped apart and they all have to force themselves to disengage and drop. Well, he manages to get his mouth loose just as the ship blows. And he's running. He drops or he pushes what's his name out of the way so he doesn't get killed by the ship landing on him, Kimmel. And he's running. Now he's running towards Rita to save her life. And this is the best death in the entire freaking film, folks. He's running towards Rita to save her life, and he gets smashed by a truck. It's just like, boom, and you see his helmet pop off. It is so freaking hilarious how it is shown. I mean, it's like, oh my God, really? So then instead of cutting back to the point zero, it shows that he goes ahead of the truck. He misses the truck and he saves her and she saves him, but he gets hit by one of the things that the mimics can shoot out of themselves. And he's got a hole in his chest and he's like, I'm it. And she literally steals his battery. And she's like, or she doesn't give a shit about it. And she goes on to fight. And then a mimic starts coming out of the ground there. And he's like, oh, fuck. And he wakes up again. And so this time he runs and hides the card game. And he's like, I'm not going to run, yada, yada. And so you get the idea that he is dying more often than they're showing, which is actually it's done very well in a way that you understand that it is. And so he tackles, or on the beach again, he tackles Rita into the ship that's about to explode. He's like, I'm sorry, I'm trying to save you. He points his gun arm up, shoots a mimic there, points it out sideways while he's looking at her and blasts the mimic out there. And she's seeing that he has precognitive ability where he knows where this mimic is, which tells you that he's fought the damn thing too many times. And she's understanding this. So when he's like, we got to get away from this ship, it's about to explode. She has her sword in her hand. She just drops it. And she's like, come find me when you wake up. Wait, what? Come find me when you wake up. So that's odd. Now, remember when I said in the beginning of the stream that they reported that she killed over 100 mimics on her first day in combat? Well, we will now understand why. We see that Cage wakes up, goes through the whole thing, and he's about to, or they're doing PT in 10 minutes, and they have him dropped, or they're all doing their chat and PT, the squad, and then Bill Paxton, God bless the man, he's like, knock off that grab ass. And Tom Cruise, grab this, Sarge. He just yells it out because he knows what's about to happen. He's about to get in trouble and have to do 50. So he gets down ready. 50, Sarge? Yeah, 50. And you know what? The whole squad could do 50. And so then he sees the trucks because he's looking back and he sees the trucks are ready to drive. So he tries rolling under one of the trucks and he gets ran over by the damn truck. And you see the response. You see the people react. You see Bill Paxton. He's like, what the hell were you thinking? So then they're doing the push-ups again. This movie has the right amount of humor in it. It really does. It just has the right amount of humor for this movie. And so he times it again and he manages to get to Frataski. And he convinces her when he runs in because she's doing exercises in the shootout gallery or in the shooting range. And she's like, who said you could talk to me? You did. Tomorrow, we've met. You told me to find you when I wake up. And she's like, come with me now. You're not to talk about this with anybody because if you do, at minimal, they will lock you up in a psych ward. At worst, or best case scenario, they lock you up in the psych ward. Worst case scenario, they dissect you. And she's like, do you understand? Yes. When you first died, what happened? You killed a mimic? Yes. Describe it. It was bigger than normal. It was kind of bluish. And when you killed it, you took on some of its blood. Yes? Yeah. How do you know all this? What happened to you happened to me. And I had the power and I lost it. Well, good. They're secure. How do I get rid of this? Not yet. I need you first. For what? To win the war. So she introduces him to a doctor friend of hers. And she's like, this is me before Verdun. Wait, what? You? Okay. How many fingers am I holding up behind my back? How am I supposed to understand or know that? And okay, so this is the first time we had this this is the first time me and you have met. Okay. So they get to it, this doctor was considered crazy when he had a device, and also he knows more about mimic biology than anything else or anyone else. I think some random kid in school just gave me a DVD with a no case of Red versus Blue season 4. Nice. Listening? Yeah. And so you see the difference between them, and then you see what's known as an Omega. And they've asked, have you started having visions of this thing yet? No. Visions? What the hell? So she explains what happened to her. She killed a mimic her first day. She took an alpha. She got her blood. And he's the only one who will listen to Cage other than Rita, who will believe him. And you learn that these things have the ability to control time. Now, the alphas are rare. For every 6 million or 6.18 million mimics that you see, you'll see one alpha. And this thing, or if an alpha is killed, the Omega resets the day. Now, the Omega is this kind of tentacled thing that goes like this, opens up, and to give you an idea, I'll use my black egg here. It opens up, and the black egg is like a orb that comes up and resets the day. Now, this, or as they're doing that or explaining this, and it's a nice presentation, you understand that he's like, well, this is a great presentation. Why not take this to the general? I've tried I've gone to the general any number of times. Psych ward, dissection, remember? And we have to do this, or we got to win the war this way. You have, or okay, so you've taken in some of it, or I've taken some of its power. I can reset the. How do I control it? You die over and over every day until we kill the Omega. They call that thing the Omega. And so he's like, you're going to get me to the Omega so I can kill it. He's like, I'm going to get you there. Yes. I'm not even combat ready or combat trained. So she's training him. When we get the montage where he is dying so many times because she's putting him through the ringer again. Your leg's broken. No, whatnot. And so you see her just shoot him over and over. And but the first time in the training, I really do like because they explain in second and the most important rule. When you are out there, if you get injured, you better make sure you die. Because if you don't, this is how I lost my power. I got injured on the last day when we took Verdun. However, I was bleeding out, but not fast enough. I woke up in an infirmary hours later with 3 pints of somebody else's blood in me, and I lost the ability. So yeah, we then she then pops him in the head. He wakes up and he's training over and over and over, and he's like, "Hold on, wait a minute. This stuff is in my blood, yes? Have we ever thought about trying to transfer it? Tried that, didn't work. Well, have you tried all the options? Like what? Well, all the options. What, sex? Yeah. Yeah, I tried that, didn't work. Well, how many times? Okay. So she just freaking kills him out of freaking sheer annoyance there because it's like, okay, now you're just getting... Well, the thing is, if she had... Now, this actually gets you wondering. If it's in his blood and his biology, well, males often are good at transferring things into a female during sex. Just saying. Might work with a guy. You never know. But anyway, again, and again. And so they're like, or this last time that she kills him, he now starts seeing visions. And there's this damn German writing, the number 85, and then in a part of this dam on the inside, you see the Omega opening up like this, or it starts to open up. And then he wakes up and he's like, I've seen the Omega. It's in a dam somewhere in there was German writing. I saw a dam in the mountains and whatnot. So she's like, training's over. Now we got to focus on the next part, which is getting us off that beach. We got to find Omega. So you see a montage of her dying, him dying, and them getting to a certain spot next to a plant or next to a area and going over the flaws because she keeps on dying. And then you see how skilled he is. He's getting his own shoulder cannons, not like hers, but he has a 50 cal freaking Barrett on his right, and a missile launcher on his left shoulder, which is pretty cool. I mean, the weapons they show in this movie are great. So you then see the J Squad in the trench getting ready to get killed by the Mimic, and Nance's like, we got him coming 500 yards. What the fuck? Because you now see Cage running around them, blasting the Mimic that's coming up, excuse me, and then pulling or yanking it out of there to get him away from there so it kills them. You see Rita working together with him and him running off, and they're like, Sarge, the new guy, what's his name again? It is just so freaking great. I mean, you got this movie does show just enough humor to give you a good laugh. And that is what I like about this film. Now, there's other scenes where they finally get off the beach. There's this trailer park area with a bunch of vehicles. And they're like, okay, so what's our next move? Well, we go down there and we find a vehicle that has fuel in it. And well, okay, so let's go. Well, the problem is it's an ambush waiting to happen. The only two vehicles we haven't tried is that minivan with a caravan and that green car or that green truck over there. So we're gonna have to you're gonna go for the minivan. Make sure you detach the camper and whatnot. Well, they make it. She doesn't detach the camper, which kind of sucks, but they managed to get out of there. So now they're on the road driving, and he's hearing that they've attacked London. And oh shit, there was a point in between this I forgot to cover where he keeps on seeing her die. He keeps on seeing her dead body every time on the thing. So there's one time he actually decides to go it alone. But then he's just walking away from it and he's like, fuck it. I mean, this is the great part of this story. When you see someone, or when you have died so many times, when you have seen a person die so many times, they don't remember you dying or themselves dying because it's just it's a repeat day for them. They don't have the memory, but you do. You are seeing this person die over and over and over again. Of course, you're going to want to try going it alone. And so, in this case, he's actually just had enough. He deserts completely. He rides into Britain on a motorcycle, and he's in a pub where you see these older veterans talking about older wars like World War II and whatnot, and how their grandfather was in the Great War. And he's like, I've been over there more times than I can count. I'm usually long dead by now. And one of the veterans look at him and is like, you're a coward. And that actually does kind of hit him a little bit. So then the power goes out in the pub, and he looks out into the Thames, and he sees that there's an attack coming into London. And then in the water, you see a bunch of freaking mimics just scurrying along the water under the waves, and one of them kills him. Well, then he wakes up again, 0, and he now has new motivation. He knows that they're going to invade London. No matter what they do, they already invade London during the time that the landing at France happens. And so he's just beating the shit out of the machines in the shooting course where he's being trained. He's just beating hell out of them. And she's like, you keep coming back and I will train you. And he's like, you already have. And so then they finally get to the trailer, and where they're driving down. Well, the trailer's still attached and mimics are inside of it, and he blasts the thing, or he manages to come up through the top of the minivan and shoots out the mimics, clearing them off, and she manages to get the trailer unhitched because of all the damage. And they're driving down a highway, so he tries to get her to talk. He's like, you usually talk to me once we've been around, or once we get around Lyon. And he starts bullshitting with her, and she's like, I've never been to Lyon with my family. And he's like, you also tell me your middle name. Peyton. My middle name's not Peyton. And then she's like, I'm not a big fan of talking. And he's like, Or so what about Henderson? And she's like, where'd you hear that name? How do you know that name? You talked about him. No, I don't. Well, you did one time. Under which circumstance? And she then also tells him, I watched him die over 300 times. He's dead. And apparently this Henderson character was a friend of hers. So she's like, I remember it, or I remember every detail, so there's really no reason for me to talk about it. And you understand that she's also been through the same fatigue that he has. She's died over 300 times. Now, this actually is based on a book where he also dies around 300 times. I mean, they only show 36 different iterations of the events of the day in different scenarios and whatnot, where they're doing different things. Now they get to as they're getting there, and they get to this farmhouse because their suits are dying. They take the weapons off the suits, and they find a helicopter. Well, they can't find the keys. So you think this is the first time they've made it this far. The movie doesn't tell you this, or doesn't hint that they've been there before until near the end of when you realize that they have. And they're looking for the keys. They can't find the keys to a fully fueled helicopter in the back. And she also has an injury on her shoulder that he's helped patching up. And they found, she's like, I can't believe you found coffee. Well, that is a first very subtle hint. And that is where the writing is very nice, because actually it's a very subtle hint, but it's not overt. And he's like, sugar, right? Yeah. And then he gives her some sugar, and he's like, wait, you like 3. That's when she starts picking up on it. And he looks up at her, and he sees the look on her face, and he's like, there's a shirt over there, should be about your size. How many times have we been here? How many times, Cage? And she's like, where are the keys, Cage? And she's like, where are the goddamn keys? And he pulls them out, and she's like, you know how to fly it, don't you? No, I mean, well, yes, I can take off and whatnot and fly it, but landing is what I'm working on. She's like, well, what the hell are we even doing here? And so she goes, or she's heading out. And he's like, if you start that engine, you're dead. This is as far as you go. This is as far as you make it. There's a mimic 20 yards away. As soon as you start it, we both get in there, we both die. However, one of us, the only thing that I haven't done is where I go in, you go into the farmhouse and wait for me. And he's trying to convince her not to do it. And I really like this. And she's like, why does it matter what happens to me? And he's fully honest with her. And I love this writing. It's like, I wish I have never known you, but I have died knowing you too many times, essentially, is what he says. It's like, and she understands this, but she still goes anyway. So he runs away as the mimic comes out. He also tells her there are several more buried in the field. And the events play out where the mimic forces her to crash into the barn. And she's lying dying after he kills the mimic with an axe. And she's like, my middle name is Rose. And I believe that's actually Emily Blunt's real middle name. Now I'm actually curious, because Emily Rose Blunt does actually sound Emily Blunt's middle name. Let's see here. Oh, wow, she actually has 2 middle names. Emily Olivia Leah Blunt. All right, maybe it's not Rose then. But okay, so Rita Rose Vertasky. Isn't that interesting? The more you know, folks. So He goes in, wakes up at point zero. He actually goes in. She gets up. She's like, yes, who said you could talk to me? And is there, or do I got something on my face, soldier? And he's like, sorry to disturb you, Sergeant. And he walks away. And as he's getting loaded up by Griff, he's like, I'm going to need 3 more clips of 5.56, 8 grenades, and an extra battery. Well, what happened to your helmet? I don't use it. It's a distraction. And when he's looking at Griff and he's like, get it. Griff nods to him and gets the stuff off. So on the beach, you see Kimmel celebrating. We made it, and get killed. Freaking Tom Cruise just watches him die. And he's just walking up. Then we cut to the farmhouse where he's blasting the shit out of everything in there. And he's actually just had enough. This is a dude who has literally just had enough. And he's just shooting it up, blasting everything. He gets into the helicopter. He flies to the dam. Okay, they're at the dam, or he's at the dam where the Omega is now. He gets in there. He gets right to the spot where he saw the Omega. He points his rifle down. It's not in there. So then one of the mimics comes up, the orange ones, and knocks the grenades away from him, knocks his rifle away from him, and it's then is moving at him, jerking at him in its way of random movements, but it's not attacking him. And he tries coaxing it to finish him, but it's backing away from him every time he moves toward it. Well, behind him, an Alpha comes in. And he's slowly realizing this was a trap. So he goes to shoot himself in the head with a gun, while the Alpha slaps the gun out of his hand and also slices his arm, where he's bleeding out all over the floor. So then he looks over to the side where there's water pipes to the dam, and he crawls into that area. Well, because the creatures are so... Sneeze. Excuse me. Sorry about that, folks. Well, because these creatures move so randomly, they end up cutting some of the pipes, and he ends up drowning it out there. And he gets to them, and he's like, okay, the Mimic's not, or the Omega's not there. So it wasn't at Verdun either when she saw it at Verdun. What this thing knows we're coming. It laid a trap for us. So he's talking with Rita and the doctor again, and then it's like, so what's this machine you got? It's a transponder. I can't get it to work here, though. It taps into them, and it will show us where the Omega is. Well, he's like, I had a working prototype at Whitehall, but they took it away from me when they fired me there. So he's like, okay, so we're going to go to Whitehall. But we need a live mimic. We got the next best thing, Cage. And so, because he still has the blood in it, you see. So now we have Cage and Rita going into Whitehall, but he's talking to her. He's like, okay, this one's going to recognize you. So we see that this is not the first time they're going through. Instead of having to show us time and time again of how many times they screw up, they only show us the one iteration where they actually succeed in getting to the general. And he tells him, tell him you'll call him back. Who? Major, this guy, or Beaumont, he's about to tell you that his plane was delayed because of bad weather. You'll call him back. And so the general's listening to this. He's like, General, this isn't the first time we've had this conversation. You are stubborn, and that is, or we never usually get past this point. And to either where she ends up shooting you or me. And we end up getting killed. And he explains the whole thing. It's like, the only chance that we can save our world is by that machine, and you're safe. All right, so let's say that I'm inclined to believe, or I can't rationalize any thing you're saying. What makes you or you need a live Omega or you need a live Mimic in order for this thing to work? He's like, you leave that to me. But say you did believe what I was saying. Well, then I would find this Omega, and I would bomb it out of existence. Well, he's like, you are not mentally equipped to deal with this thing. So then the general hands him the machine, the transponder. And he's like, thank you, General. So they're like, okay, that was easy. So they're walking out. Well, the MPs are out there pointing their guns, waiting for him. And thanks to quick handling, Rita pulls out her weapon and shoots him in the head. So then we cut to the next attempt. Well, skip to the ending result. They're trying a different tactic where they're coming out of the parking garage underneath the base of Whitehall. And they got the machine. And he's like, what do I do with this? You stab it into your leg. So she jams the damn thing into his leg because he's kind of hesitant. And so you see the time kind of slow down, and he's seeing, or we get transported into his mind, and it's like, it's taking me there. It's showing me the Louvre. Okay, it's flooded on the inside. There's a parking garage underneath the Louvre. There it is. He found the Mimic. Now here is where shit goes sideways. They manage to get out and they get caught. Now, if it was me, after seeing where this thing is, I would say put a bullet in my head right now so that we can skip all of trying to escape where we might get caught and just reset and go from there. Get people to go to the Louvre. Bomb the fucking Louvre out of existence, like the general said. Well, they don't do that. Instead, they get caught. Our Mexu MP stops them with one of the jackets and causes them to crash. They're both unconscious, and he wakes up with a blood bag dripping blood into him. And you also see when he opens his eyes, the all black indication that he's tapped into the Mimics bleeds out of his eyes, and now you see that he's normal. Well, he's trying to find out if Rita's alive, and he tips over his seat or his bed because he's strapped down to it because, well, he is now a prisoner. And he hears a scuffle outside, and he thinks it's the Mimics, but then it's Rita, and she's like, I was out of those things in 3 minutes flat. Cage, what's wrong with you? And so she gets him out. She pulls she pulls a dagger and she's ready to stab him. And he's like, no, wait, I'm out. The power just left me. I can't reset the day anymore. And I absolutely love this because now you can't die again. You die again, it's good. You're dead for good. And you have now a nearly impossible scenario. You got to somehow convince J Squad, who has never met you or who has only seen you as a deserter and who frickin' got lost because you ended up running away with Rita, who really want to kick your ass right now. And you got to now convince them to help you steal a ship and fly it to Paris. You don't get a reset this time. In finding the Omega, you are most likely going to be heavily guarded. Or it is most likely going to be heavily guarded. So he tells Skinner, one of the J Squad members, everything about everyone, including Ford, who plays in the CW as the black version of that 2=1 nuclear flame guy. I can't remember his damn name. But he plays one of the characters in it. And he's like, your name's not really Ford. He says that you pretend to be Ford and you send the checks to his family that you get. And He's like, well, I'm not going to fall, or Griff is not having any of it. He's like, I don't care if, or how, I don't care if I believe you or not, man. I'm not following a deserter into combat. He's like, you're right. There's no way that I can convince you to follow me. But will you follow her? And she comes in, she sees that these guys are just fucking wily hillbilly soldiers and whatnot. And she's like, okay. So they're now flying to, or they steal the gunship, take off. Next day, you see Bill Paxton getting ready to calling everybody up, making sure they're all awake, getting ready. And he's like, where the hell's J Squad? Well, J Squad's on their way to Paris to end the war. And predictably, they get very close to the Louvre, and they start coming under fire. Well, Kimmel, balls out, I call him, is now dead from shrapnel. Everybody else is getting tossed around, and he tries one last time to convince Rita not to go in. She's like, I'm going in, Cage. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I'm going in. And so they get themselves in. Now, there's this one shot where they crash into the Louvre, and you see freaking Tom Cruise crash through the window of the Louvre and down into the damn thing and slam onto an area and just land where he's barely hurt. And I'm thinking to myself, I know he does his own stunts, but there is absolutely no fucking way he just crashed through a wall. I mean, yeah, I know it would be a green screen wall and shit because you can't really do that to the actual Louvre. But there's no way that wasn't digitally enhanced. So it's now just those, or Rita and him, because Griff and the others had a claymore, were stopping an oncoming onslaught of mimics, and they blew themselves up to stop them, to divert or to get by them as much time as possible. And so they're right near the Omega, and there is an Alpha patrolling around the Omega. She's like, I'm going to draw it off. You go in, we bomb that thing. He's like, and she's like, I'm glad I met you, Cage. I wish we could have gotten to know each other. This is as far as we're both going to die here. And they both understand, yes, we are both going to die here. And so she runs off to draw off the Alpha, and you see her get torn, or you see the Alpha find her and rip into her. You don't see the bloodiness, but you do see it pull up a huge red dripping chunk of her, and then looks at Cage to go after him as he jumps into the pool to go after the Omega. And he's swimming down there. He's getting in, and the Alpha is going right after him. And you think that he's actually going to do it. Bam! The Alpha stabs him right through the stomach with one of its tentacles. And he's drops the grenade belt down among the Omega, or into the Omega as it's opened up. And it goes into the orb-like area inside of that orb. Well, he now turns around to look at the Alpha that's bearing down on him, and he opens his hand, and it's all the pins to the grenades that he just pulled. Well, you then see a small little explosion inside of the orb from the Omega, and that Alpha is now dried up dead. And then it explodes again, and the Alpha is not, or couldn't reset the day. So you're seeing all of the Alpha, or all of the mimics that are heading towards the Louvre, suddenly freeze and stop and slide in, and their tentacles freeze up at different angles and whatnot, like this and yada yada. And the light inside of them goes from orange to black. They're all dead. And then back in there with the dead Omega, you see its blood start pooling upward and coming or into contact with Cage. And it starts snaking its way into Cage's nose, and his eyes open up and they're black. And then another reset. But it's not back to point zero. It's actually back to when he was flying into London originally, which is pretty interesting. So now he's gone back even further, and he meets with the British liaison that's to escort him to Whitehall, and she's like, "It's great news, or have you seen the news? It's great, isn't it? Well, victory has been declared." The general is reporting that mimics all over the world have suddenly stopped, and they have no, or they seemingly have lost the capacity to attack. Russian and Chinese forces are moving across Europe unopposed and without resistance. So we believe that there was we've also intercepted a power surge from Paris that we have not identified, but we do believe it correlates with what is going on with the mimics. So essentially, even in the past, where the day is reset, the Omega is also still dead. But Cage still has all of his memories and whatnot. So yeah, he goes. You see J Squad's doing their PT, running their drills and whatnot, and he's still a major because he didn't try to desert. He's on that, or he goes in, and everybody stands at attention because an officer is on deck. You stand at attention. He is a major, and he goes up to Rita, and Rita is like, "Yes, what do you want?" And he's like, and then that's when they run the credits. This movie is just so freaking great. Now, they actually want to do a sequel, and I'm thinking to myself, how would you run a sequel to this? How would you actually do a sequel to this? Unless you're actually, what you're going to do is a more of a prequel where you got Emily Blunt doing the whole thing at Verdun. And Tom Cruise is actually doing a media prep, and you see some of him where he has a cameo. That's the only conceivable way you can actually do another Edge of Tomorrow movie. However, this movie, objectively speaking, is a 9 out of 10. There are some digital effects issues where it looks, or when it shows mixing in with him, the blood mixing in with him, that is the weakest digital effects. The mimics are great. Like I said, their sporadic movement where they're slamming out their tentacles like that, that's on purpose. That's actually done on purpose. So I'm not going to fault for those digital effects. It's the other digital effects, like when it was mixing in with his blood and melting his skin and whatnot. It's those kind of digital effects that didn't look as good. And the small little dialogue hiccups, like with Nance's character and whatnot, those could have been, well, they could have shot that scene better and such, or they could have even put the dialogue in from the previous scene to overshadow the scene and whatnot, but they didn't. So yes, there is that. Other than that, this movie is exceptionally well done. Yes, it's a sci-fi action movie, but it's sci-fi action with a great twist. You don't see much wrong with it, really. The water simulations of the creatures moving through the water is actually very well done. All of it is just very well done. Now, subjectively, this movie is a 9.5 out of 10. If they were to take out a 3 to 5 seconds of that Hillary Clinton shot, I would have given it a 10 out of 10, subjectively. Now, moviegoer, this movie is 10 out of 10. It really is great. I highly recommend it for everybody in the chat who has been listening. Definitely check it out. Edge of Tomorrow, if you haven't seen it, it is so freaking great. Tom Cruise may be an asshole in real life. He may be a nutcase in real life, but the man is absolutely dedicated to his craft. As an actor, as a producer, and all of it. He is that dedicated. And honestly, I respect him for that. I don't respect him for his real life being an absolute nutcase, but as an actor, I do respect him. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for tuning into this mystery review of Edge of Tomorrow. I honestly have not thought, have I come up with a plan for the next movie? I don't believe I have. Oh, wait, yes, I have. So yes, are you ready for the hints for the next movie? Now, you're going to think an obvious choice, but I guarantee you it may not be as obvious as you think because there are multiple movies that fit these hints. The movies are, or the hints are, a mix of live action and cartoon. Now, you really got to dig in to know how many different movies there are that, and I've seen many of them. In fact, I've seen all of them because there are like 5 or 6 of these movies that fit that description. Toons and live action mixed in. So yeah, let's see if you can actually do it, or guess it, folks. But guess it in the not in the comment section here, but over in Twitter. If you know it, you know it. But anyway, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. Kamen Rider, Cult Classic Cage, Jet Sparks 373. Kamen Rider. Who else? Rhetorical Thrill. Thank you for tuning in. Epi the Oz. Thank you for tuning in. And well, there was me too because I was telling people to wait a moment. But yes, thank you to all who's shown up. And if you want to see me again, I'm going to be doing a video later. Also, I have another stream coming up with Rhetorical Thrill on Thursday morning at 10 a.m., where we're going to be discussing Death Becomes Her. I believe the movie was done in 1992 with Bruce Willis, Meryl Streep, and Goldie Hawn. But anyway, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. This has been Orange Chat Reviews. Stay humble.